Hello, and welcome to another Ask a Maker Educator series. We're here to support educators with their questions and help them further their ideas. We have an amazing 30-minute segment going on today. We're going to pair up me with two of my very good friends and people that I really think and hold high esteem in the Maker Educator community. And so if you have any questions that you want to go ahead and ask them, feel free to enter that in the chat box. We want to get those community questions because they are amazing experts when it comes to elementary schools and making, how to do so on a budget and how to get that staff buy-in. So feel free to submit those questions online. And these sessions are live, so they're automatically uploaded and shared. So go ahead and pick a topic that is interesting for you. And hopefully this one, you're here today because you're interested in making in elementary schools. And these two women are going to tell us how it's done. So let me turn it over to them. Melissa, can we start with you? Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Melissa Becker. I'm the principal of Meadow School in Petaluma, California. We're an elementary school. This is my 11th year at Meadow, but my 16th year being a principal. And prior to that, I was a teacher for 10 years in elementary school up till 8th grade. I also have some experience in middle school as well. I've been doing Maker for probably about 4 years now, and it's really changed the face of my school. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Gina, what about you?
And I'm Gina Silveira. I'm the principal at Schaefer Charter School in Santa Rosa. And let's see, this is my 21st year in education, 6th year as an administrator, and I was a teacher prior to that in middle school and elementary school. And it's my 4th year at my current site. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks, you two. I am Jessica Parker. I am the Director of Community and Learning here at Maker Ed, and I'm super excited to have these two women, amazing Maker educators here today. So why don't we start with the why? What in the world and why should we bring making into an elementary school setting? What do we think?
Go ahead, Gina. You look like you.
No, I was going to wait for you to say something and then piggyback. I mean, for me, it's hands-on learning. That's the best way to learn, period. And I attended Catholic school, and there's nothing wrong with Catholic school except for the fact that I sat in rows and it was boring. And, I frequently got caught doing things I shouldn't be doing, like reading a book under the desk and getting yelled at, and lots of worksheets. And I feel like it doesn't serve all students. I happen to be able to, get good grades, just kind of because of who I am, but there are a lot of kids who can't learn that way. So to me, Maker provides the hands-on connections that kids need, and I wish I'd had it when I was a kid.
I agree, Gina. I also think that school can become or had become kind of a rote way of learning, and I think Maker has kind of blown the top off that and let kids of all different learning styles feel successful. I think we've added a lot to teachers' plates, but for me, I feel that Maker is not an addition. It's something that makes the whole thing fit together better. It's not something that you just layer onto your day. It's a way that you can integrate your language arts program, your math, and your science, and some art and creativity as well. But it makes learning exciting for kids. I've just seen a switch in them. When they come to the class, they're fired up, ready to go, wanting to see what we're learning. They're willing to take risks that they may not take in the regular ed classroom. So it's been really exciting.
Could you talk specifically about why making is so important for this age? I mean, I think so often people go, oh, well, high school, that makes total sense. It'll lead right into a career, in terms of the technical and the deep content knowledge. But talk to us about why K5, K6, maybe even K8, why it's so essential at a young age for kids to actually engage in making hands-on activities, student-centered design. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, first of all, I would say that what we used to perceive happen in high school is happening in elementary school now. I have students at my school that can code and do things better than many adults can do. So I think we've seen that shift, and kids are much more confident doing technology and hands-on. So they're exploring those things in their homes or online. So it's natural that it should be part of the classroom. And I think that they feel excited about that, so that when they come to school and they see those same or expanded opportunities, it gets them more interested in a topic. I think that kids are used to school being a certain way. And so that works well. Like Gina said, for some kids that works well, that I come and I sit at my desk and I am in a cooperative group, or I do the learning in this box and this is what happens. But there's many kids who fall outside of that. And so for them, they kind of have this aha moment, like, wait, learning is for me. Wait, learning is hands-on. Wait, I can explore. I can fail. I can try this. I can make these connections. And I think in the role of a maker room or maker, the teacher stands back just a tad. They're still helping in elementary school, obviously, keep a focus, but it lets kids step up a little bit and show what they know. And then you can kind of run with it in a way that I don't know if you can do in a regular classroom.
Great.
And I want to piggyback on that. I also think that, in this age, the kids' imagination is so wonderful, and they don't have fear, and they don't have the self-talk that we get when we're, middle school on up. And so I think it's essential. And I also think the other way around, it's great for teachers to see students doing Maker Ed, because I've had so many teachers think a student could only do so much, and then they do something maker related, and they're like, I never in my life thought that kid would be able to do that. And wow, I've been holding the bar way too low. So I think it kind of serves twofold for the kids and for the educator.
Agree.
Great point, you guys. Well, then let's talk about staff buy-in. How did you start this? Where did you go, and how did you build that buy-in with the staff?
You start, Melissa, because you inspired me. So.
Oh, okay, well, thanks. I feel like teachers, at least in my school, were so ready for an opportunity to step outside their comfort zone and step into something different, because I think that they felt constrained for so long that when they heard about Maker, it wasn't much of a stretch. But I was lucky enough that I got to go hear Dale speak, and he just inspired me in a couple ways. First of all, bringing something that seemed high schoolish to an elementary school was enticing to me, because I think that I had my mindset that those things were for high school. But second of all, what really resonated with me was that when you do a project or a maker type activity and you're bouncing ideas off one another, yes, what you're creating is important, but another equally important part is how you're communicating your idea with somebody and how you're learning from them. That to me has been the most organic, amazing things to see with my students. So for us, what I did was I started myself, because I knew I couldn't come back and just say, hey, I saw this great speaker and here's what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. And they were going to look at me and go, what are you talking about? We can't add something else. So instead, I invited students to this space, and I said, starting next week, we're going to have something called Maker, and we're going to learn together, but I'm going to take it on and have kids come to the room. And so they came down, and I knew I needed certain supplies to get it started, but I had no budget. So I did a Ziploc challenge, which was I asked every student in the school to bring me one Ziploc of something really cool. I didn't even really define what it had to be. I gave a couple ideas, but I got a plethora of phenomenal things that I wouldn't have thought of, ranging from corks to I had a dad who worked in a mill and at a workshop who went around his staff and asked people to each donate one tool. So I got all these cool tools that I hadn't even thought of. And so it started with that, of kids walking into a space and feeling like, wow, what's this? What are all these materials that I haven't seen before? And having me have the faith in the kids to step back a little bit and say, hey, we're going to try these challenges. Let's see what they feel like. And I let them do the learning. I no longer became the answer for everything. I became part of an inquiry process that they had. Yes, I could be someone that they asked, but I didn't necessarily give them the result or how to do it. And I had students switch from relying on the teacher as their source to you're in a team, and how can your team solve this problem? Kids bought into it like that. I mean, it took literally 2 times of them coming for them to catch the fire and be like, okay, what are we doing next? What are we going to, how are we going to do this? So it was exciting. It was fun. And here we are 3 years into it. And I would say if you had come to my class yesterday, you would see equal, if not more excitement than you did when we first started. So it's still going strong.
Great. What about you, Gina?
Well, I visited Melissa's school, so that's why I say she inspired me, and saw what she was doing. I think I even copied some of your lessons that you had in there. But I kind of went about the I found teachers who really already had that mindset and kind of tapped into their knowledge of it, and then asked them, let's go look at Melissa's school. Let's take some tours of different makerspaces. And we took our computer lab and pretty much dumped everything out of it and made that into a makerspace. And then for me, it was more doing things at staff meetings and giving the staff kind of hands-on things to do. At first, there's a little bit of pushback, but it's interesting because, we get caught in doing the same thing. We like what we do. We don't want to change. Change is hard for a lot of people. And sometimes when we take that risk, we see like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. And it took a while for some people to see that. I had one teacher actually kind of fold her arms for our first activity and say, this is ridiculous. I don't know why we're doing this. And then by the end of it, she said, oh my gosh, I can integrate this with history and with science and with math. And so for me, it was more the hands-on. Every staff meeting was maker related. They knew how I felt about it as an administrator, and I kind of made it clear what my vision was and what I was hoping their vision would be as well. And then we had the maker camp, which at first, some people, there's some pushback about that too. And once the kids got involved, kind of like you, Melissa, they saw them in action and they were like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And it's just grown from there. But it's really not understanding what it is at first, but getting your hands in and getting involved and then seeing what it can do for you. And then it kind of opens the door for you to be like, oh, this is actually good for kids. Awesome. And then they jumped on board.
And I even saw a connection the other day. I had a 5th grade teacher, out of context, didn't bring anything up to her. She came to me and she said, hey, I need to talk to you. And I was like, what's going on? And she said, a couple years ago when you brought Maker, I wasn't sure what that was going to be like. And she said, I had a situation in my classroom the other day where the kids were problem solving something, and the way they worked together, she said, I'd seen that's how it had been modeled. Like they figured that out in Maker. And she goes, so it naturally is now coming back into the classroom. And she said her class a few years ago never would have approached it that way, but they valued all the members of the team. It wasn't like the smart kids had more buy-in from the rest of the class than kids that are perceived as not the highest kids in the class. And she said it really was a group response, and that they brought up that until they heard from everyone in their group, they didn't know what the best answer would be. And she said she felt like that was being modeled from how they solve problems in Maker, because that's what we do. We talk about when you're given supplies, you have to look at them, figure out why were you given those supplies? How do they connect together? And if you just start really fast and you don't take the time to hear what were Gina and Jessica's ideas, I might have missed out on what the best idea was because I was too eager to just do it myself. And so from natural experience, they have seen that work time and time again. They've seen that groups that have had success are the ones that have strong communication, value all the members of the team, analyze why they have the materials they have, ask questions about, could we get this other material, or how do we bring this in, or can this connect, or can we do a follow-up activity? I have now kids saying, well, like this last week we did catapults. Well, what would be the next thing we could do? They're trying to see those connections, and I love that. So it's not being generated so much by me anymore as it is from the group.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about the communication and perseverance and things. And for us as well, our school district, we have different student outcomes that we want. And so what we did as a staff was really analyze the student outcomes. And they made a list of the current things they're doing in their class. It was like spelling tests, time math tests, worksheets, whatever. And then the outcomes, and they had to draw connections between which of these actually take away from the outcomes we want for kids and which of these actually support them. And when you look at it that way, really Maker Ed supports the outcomes of communication skills, perseverance, all the things that we think all kids should have when they leave our school. I mean, you can't deny Maker Ed really helps bring that out. So that was another way to do it.
Can we dive deeper into that discussion then? What do you see are some of the cross connections that are embedded within making that really connect to Common Core or connect to NGSS or any other standards or outcomes that are really about the culture of your school? Could you speak directly to that?
Well, my first one would be that you wouldn't necessarily see as a cross connection right away is our writing. We adopted a new writing program. And so teachers are giving students prompts of things to write about. Sometimes kids find them interesting, sometimes they don't. Well, when they come to Maker and they do an activity that they care about, that they're invested in, they want to go back and write about it. So we've been getting more meaningful pieces from children. And in their writing, we've seen that then that makes them ask science questions from the writing, which then leads the teacher to say, okay, now we're ready to go into this next level for the next lesson we're doing for the following week. Or it's the layering, I think, that's naturally happening. It's not the teacher saying, here's what's going to happen in this sequential order. It's kids are kind of innately seeing what that order is going to be because they're having the experience, which is, I think, different. It's different when a teacher lays the things out for you, and yeah, they're taking you on a path, and clearly there's curriculum and there's a path you need to stay, on as you're going forward in a grade level. But what's better is when the children are experiencing something and then they're automatically seeing what that next step is and they're excited about doing it. So that's a big change we've seen.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like the teacher then is really able to pull out these experiences that connect directly to the curriculum, and now it feels more authentic. It feels like student-driven. It's like, well, let's explore what that means.
Correct, and then it's not something extra you're doing, because I think when you and I first, all three of us started, there was a concern that, is Maker going to feel like another thing on your plate to do? Is that another area that I now have to teach or figure out? And what we've worked hard to do, and it's kind of happened organically, is it's actually a way that it brings it together for you. So it's the opposite of a layer. It's more, hey, this is going to tie these things together. This is how I can strand some of my math and my social studies and my science things so that they're connected and meaningful for a student. I love that.
I think it also pushes people to look for essential questions too, because, when you want to do cross-curricular lessons and things, having an essential question, Maker just naturally goes toward that. And so I've seen a lot of teachers kind of back away from we're on 1 point, whatever, you're going to learn how to write a 5-paragraph essay, to more of an essential question, and then using the elements of all this found in all the subjects, and using hands-on activities and drawing everything in. I'm using my hands a lot, I'm Italian. I see a lot more of that. And so they're thinking more deeply about things, and less of the regurgitating all the ideas. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Definitely. So it sounds like you guys have done a lot in terms of really leading your staff and your colleagues within your own school, and I'm sure within the community. I mean, you've done Maker Camp, Gina. It sounds like, Melissa, you're teaching the class yourself. You've incorporated both of you into staff meetings, kind of have Maker hands-on activities for staff to engage in. Gina, and I think, Melissa, you have too. You've gone to tours, see what other spaces look like, and then both of you have really tried to target other colleagues and teachers that really would benefit from being invested in this and that are primed for this. So that seems like a lot of work. Is there anything there I'm missing that you've done from, an administrative perspective to really empower your own colleagues, empower students?
One thing that I missed was the engagement. You kind of talked about this, Melissa, but engaging the community and the parents, because it was really important when we had our Maker Camp was kind of like the doorway into the bigger picture of our Maker program. The staff jumped on board. They saw how good it was for kids, and they're really excited about it. But when parents get involved and they go to board meetings and they share about, oh my gosh, my kids come home every day and talk about the project they did, and they never talked to me about school until now, I think that speaks volumes. And we did a lot of, and I got this from you, Melissa, we did a lot of the send home things for parent challenges, like family challenges, and kids, like we had one where you had to do something with a water bottle, and kids brought these amazing things they made with their parents. And then they did a little museum walk around our multi-purpose room. So there's a lot of buy-in and connection to the home as well, which is important.
So, we launched ours with doing the cardboard challenge, which is that got people just to even see what that was like. But we also did an awesome night for our ELL families. I invited all of them to come, and we met in our Maker Lab, and we had activities set up, and those parents got to engage with students in a way that I don't think they normally do. They were so jazzed on it. I had many parents come back and ask for things that they could do at home, or I had kids bring things that they did on their own back to show, which I thought was really cool too. So yeah, that family home connection, family school connection is really important. The other piece of that too that I think happens that I've been excited about is I'm surprised how many kids a week after we've done a project will come back and say, hey, I thought about this, and what if I did it this way next time, or can we do that again? And so that's part of what we're going to do at Meadow, which is we're going to loop back to some of the projects that, we're going to do a 3-year cycle, so that, something you might have attempted in kindergarten, you're going to attempt it differently when you're a 3rd grader, and you're going to attempt it differently when you're a 6th grader. But I think giving kids that double dip back in is really important, because we sometimes in school too, we just do something one time and then it's done, and you either got it or you didn't. But then when they come back and they're like, oh my God, are we doing those again? Okay, now I'm going to try it this way. Or they have more knowledge to bring or more background that they can add to the equation the second time around. So it's great.
Awesome. Well, we would love any resources you have related to those nights you guys did with the adults in the community. We'll make sure to put those out on Twitter as well, because those wonderful ways to bring the community together and get both parents, guardians, and kids excited about making and designing. Talk to me about budget, because I feel like so often if people hear about making or maker spaces, they think, oh, I need $5,000 to get some big machine. And I'm not sure that's the case at all, but especially at a K-5, K-6 level. Could you talk to us about budget and where do you start with that? And should that be the first thing we think about, is money and tools?
I try not to, but you have to sometimes. But, part of it was that Ziploc challenge, getting the materials just in hand. But the second piece was I think in most communities, there's very generous organizations. So I'll give you an example. As I started thinking about Maker, I started looking at grants differently as I saw them. So we've gotten a grant from Wells Fargo. We've gone to our local PTA and gotten a grant. A couple workplaces in our community heard about what we were doing and offered money to help us out. We have the Petaluma Education Foundation. So I think locally, no matter where you live, there are groups that are looking for something that's new and what they consider to be edgy, or ability for a lot of students to, get a lot of bang for your buck. And I think Maker is that perfect opportunity. So I think people are willing to participate and be a part of that. So while I was really nervous about that, that was probably my biggest concern, because we're not a Title I school. I can't tap into money from my district. So I've had really no money other than what I've been able to get from my PTA, which is minimal. We've been able to reach out and get a lot of money and support. So I think it's just being creative and talking it up in your community. I think schools are a great place. We have parents that work at different places that, they can participate and give. Just like I said, the little boy I have that's dad works at a mill, who showed up with all these amazing tools that he just donated to us. I had another parent who matched. They said, if you need a soldering gun, then we can get, you get one and we'll get you one. It's like, great. So I think you can be creative. So I wouldn't let money be a deterrent, because I think, for people that are in schools, you have to be where there's a will, there's a way. And if you think something's great for kids, you're going to pursue it. But I think that there's a lot of interest in this area from the community.
And for me, it was a little different. We built it into our LCAP, so we had the funding.
What's LCAP stand for?
Fun. It stands for really fun stuff. And lots of paperwork. Right, Melissa?
Yes.
It's my best friend. No. But we wrote ours in there, and we had money, but we when we need something, we had like our cardboard challenge, and we got tons of cardboard. We want to do, Legos, something with Legos. We asked for Legos. We get tons of donations of Legos. But the funny thing is, like, as a parent, my daughter goes to my school, and she came home and she had to do a visual representation of a cell. And that's all the directions were. And so she's like, what do I do? I'm all, I don't know, find something in the house and make it. And so she just looked around our house, and she had duct tape, and she had, toothpicks and Sharpies, whatever, and she made it. So you don't need a lot of stuff, which is when I started off and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, I thought it was all about 3D printers and laser cutters and vinyl, and all that stuff you have to have in order to be a real maker. But I learned right away that that's not what it's about. And honestly, I'm glad we didn't really get a 3D printer, because they take so long to print, and you'd have, kindergartners staring at something for 8 hours waiting for their tiny little thing to print. They're better nowadays, but my point, like, it's not about the big stuff. It's more about the skills we want the kids to learn. So it doesn't matter what you have. And this year we haven't actually bought a lot of stuff. We've been using what teachers have in the classroom. Kindergarten's making a water gauge, and they're just using little plastic tubs that they have, and popsicle sticks. Everyone has popsicle sticks, so you can find stuff everywhere.
Great. All right. Well, thank you for that advice, you guys. So let's talk about advice to get started. What are the 3 resources you would recommend for colleagues like yours, administrators across the nation, maybe even the globe, that you'd recommend to get started making, or to even to continue to support them making this happen in their great schools?
Where are we going?
3.
Oh, I know. You mean like sites I would visit to get information and start to?
Sure.
I love the Exploratorium. I think that they're a great site. Every project that I've looked at from them and have done in the classroom has been a 10. So I felt really confident about those. That would be the first thing. Maker Ed, of course. That's a great resource. I subscribe to Maker Magazine, which I would say for elementary school, there's a lot of things that are obviously more complex, but the kids love looking in there and kind of seeing possibilities. I've had kids build things at home based on what they've read in there. So those would be a couple that I use. I also like Teachers Pay Teachers. There's a lot of people who've already kind of done part of the step for you, which is figure out a strand of lessons so it can get you started, so you don't have to start from scratch. It's like, you know, any good teacher, if you see one idea, it can give you 10 ideas. You know, you kind of come up with 10 ideas of your own off that one. So I think that's a good place to start. I would also say talking it up and inviting people in. Like I invited parents to the classroom. I invited teachers in. Like Gina said, we started doing maker activities at faculty meetings. That was the best thing I could have done, because that really let teachers hands-on see what we were talking about. Because you can talk about it all the time, but you have to experience it.
Yeah, and a shout out to Casey Shea, if we could clone him and put him in every state and every classroom. But we got that one activity.
We'd be nothing without Casey.
I know.
So who is Casey? What should we look for?
At the Sonoma County Office of Education, but he's Casey. We are Casey Shea and Jessica Parker groupies.
Yes.
Right, Melissa?
Yes.
But
sad but true, it is.
It's true. It's true. But we did get that one activity from Casey where he had the little strips of all the Common Core standards cut out, and then you do an activity with your staff, and then you have them sort which standards they used in that activity. And I mean, every activity you do, you use pretty much, I think all but one was most of the time that we did it. But it was so meaningful because you're connecting it to standards, so there isn't that argument, and then you're doing the hands-on, so you've got kind of the marrying of the two right there in front of them. It was an awesome thing.
Great. Well, you guys, I'm so sorry, but we are out of time. So let's go ahead and continue this discussion online in the Twitter sphere and other social media venues. So thank you so much to Melissa Becker, a principal at Meadow School in Petaluma, and Gina Silveira, who is a principal at Schaefer Charter School in Santa Rosa, both in California, Northern California. So we appreciate you guys joining us. Join us next time, though, next Wednesday, January 18th, as we have another Ask a Maker Educator with Laura Fleming. She is going to talk about ways and materials to actually start that makerspace and help you support that. So until next time, have a great time out there. And we so appreciate your help, Gina and Melissa.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.